Namaste, everybody. We're going to start class this morning sitting on 2 blocks. We're going to kneel on the 2 blocks. If for whatever reason you have a knee or ankle injury that makes this impossible for you, then of course take a seated position that works for you. But this is nice because it keeps the spine nice and long. So we sit down on it. The feet are just in between on either side of the blocks. The block is in between the feet. So once you're there, and by the way, if you need a folded blanket on top of the 2 blocks because of any discomfort in the knees or ankles, then you can also do that, or even thighs, I guess. So you can also do that. As you come to sit, just begin to become aware of your breath, perhaps taking a couple of deepened breaths in, feeding the body with prana and feeding your inner environment with your awareness. The exhalations can come out of the mouth, just releasing any fatigue or, sleepiness from the nights. Or any sense of fogginess, stagnation. Apparently this month is a really good month to focus on your health and a very good month for healing on all levels. So you might like to keep that in mind as you schedule your days. A little bit of extra time for yourself. Perhaps even getting some support through somebody massaging or some body worker. I'm actually going to do a detox, so if anybody wants to join me, you just let me know. I'm starting that over the weekend, and I'm going to give some tips on how to take yourself through a cleanse. But finding your seats comfortably, dropping into the sit bones. And as I have mentioned before, this grounding down through the base, so you can find the updraft through the spine, lengthening out through the crown, relaxing through the shoulders. Becoming aware of the rhythm of your natural breath. And beginning to find your rhythm with Samavritti. This is the ratio breath we've been working with pretty consistently since we started this series, or practice together. And I invite you to come into Ujjayi breath as well. And you might have your ratio, as we've been working with the 4-2-4-2 ratio. And I'm suggesting that we increase that to 6-4-6-4 if it's in your capacity to do it comfortably and sustainably. So try and be aware of relaxation through all 4 parts of the breathing process. Try and be aware of that opening and expanding experience of the inhalation, particularly down, down through the pelvis, pelvic floor, perineum. And there's a slight contraction that can happen, this really gentle contraction that happens down below for the retentions. And that exhalation, you'll feel this pulling up again a little bit more from the perineum pelvic floor. So see if you can find that. This is that natural rhythm. I've talked about this before. And so, Susie, we're just doing the Samavritti. This is that ratio breath. We always start the ratio, with 4-2-4-2, but we're working towards 6-4-6-4 if that's in your capacity. And for those of us who have been breathing now for a few minutes, you might like to see if you can just begin to extend that exhalation by a count of 1, 2, or even 3. So what I do when the counts start coming out of alignment with each other is try and make the inhalation and the retention the same number as the exhalation and the retention. So for example, if I'm swapping out my 6-4-6-4 to an extended exhalation, I aim to do something like 6-4-9-3, because both of the 6-4 and the 9-3 are now equaling 12. So the inhalation and the pause is a full number of 12, and the exhalation and its pause is a full number of 12. So I'm keeping the equal breathing in a way. You can play with the numbers, and if it's not equal all the time, don't get hung up about it, right? Rules are meant to be broken. And sometimes with yoga, we work towards rules because we're incapable of doing the rule to start with. So see how you get on just for a few rounds, because as I've mentioned this before, once we start something like this and we find, oh, I can do this, then there will be a limited time at which you can comfortably do it before you start feeling fatigue or you start feeling some discomfort around it. So complete just one more breath now. One more full round of your Samavritti. You can then release the hands down to the side, and we're going to start just our little energy flow practice that we've been working with a bit. You can use some sort of accounts with this if you like. You can also let it go. We're going to inhale and reach the arms out and up so they come overhead. We pause for a moment as the hands come together, and we exhale through the center. Palms can peel a little just to give you the space. I sometimes like to make this shape with my fingers. And then we inhale and rise back up through the center. And exhale, turn the palms out and drop the arms out and down towards the earth. We pause as we simply turn the palms around, and we inhale and we rise, finding your sit bones in the blocks. Hands come together as a moment, and then exhale through the center. Opening up the palms to create this nice feminine triangle shape. And then inhale, rising back up through the center. Exhale out. One more cycle. Inhale, rising. Maybe that drawing in of the navel as we're getting more open, pausing. Exhale through the center. Pushing down through our little mudra. And then inhale back up through the center. Pausing and exhale, opening up the palms facing away from you. Just allow the hands to land by the side. Take a moment to feel the energy in and around your body. This for me is like a little energy cleanser. So we're just sort of cleansing and balancing the subtle energies of the body through that, and see if you can have a sense of how that might be playing out for you. You can have a little rock and roll through the shoulders, through the neck, just seeing what's going on for you before we step in together into the next place. And I'm going to replace my camera, so hopefully you can see me in my entirety through this. Anyway, I think that's okay. Okay, so you can place your blocks just at the top of your mat. You may well need them at some point during class today. We're going to come into our cat pose with the hands or wrists under the shoulders, knees under the hips, and the feet are just sitting back behind the knees. You might like to give those little feet a shake out after all that kneeling, and then rotate the ankles a few times. I'm doing this really rapidly. You can do it at whatever speed you like. Change the direction after a few rounds, shake them out once again, and just a little fling from left to right for a few times. Just getting the whole body to begin to slowly warm up. Once you're done there, you place the feet back on the earth, and we're going to do this churning. I'm calling it the cat churning, a little bit like a roast on a spit. So head and hips are rotating in the same direction. And just feeling through the whole of your body. You can have the elbows a little soft here, a little receptive to the movement. Change the direction after a few rounds. I don't know, maybe you lose, I've just lost a bit of sense of control over that, but don't worry about it as long as you keep moving and juicing up the body. You can then just pull back, dropping the head and the tail down, just slightly pulling back, buttocks to heels. You can even have a little wag of the tail there. If you've got any sensitivity in the lower back like I do, then that can be quite nice. And inhale, rolling up, open the chest, chin, roll the sit bones up. And again, you can hold there for a moment as a little wag of the tail, just feel what's going on, see what's available. And then exhale once again, just round through. Step your hands about a half a hand in front of where they sit now and begin to rotate a big circle around the four corners of your foundation. After a few rounds, you can change that direction. Click, click, might go at the hips or something. And then as you're done there, we come back slowly to the center. You can just realign the body, just how it feels comfortable, perhaps hands back under the elbows, shoulders, whatever. And then we take an inhale, and as we exhale, we dip the right knee, elbow to the floor, and the other one out. And I've got a little dummy coming to say hello to me. Inhale, hello Jet, how are you? Good morning. He's just come out of bed, so would you believe? And then drop the other elbow down, left elbow and right elbow down. Hello, Smitchy. Inhale up, exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down. And it's warm enough that I've been able to leave the door open so the cats don't meow outside wanting in. The dog starts howling. So just repeating this a few more times. And then coming back to the center. Shake out one wrist and then shake out the other wrist. And then place your hands so the fingers are pointing out left and right, away from you to the sides. You might even like to widen the knees a little bit here. I like to just slightly widen my knees so when I rock from side to side, I feel really supported and I can really control the amount of pressure and depth at which I move through the wrists. I have an injury in my right shoulder, elbow, and it's feeling a little into the wrist, which is interesting because we're doing a lot of wrist and arm work in this series. which just goes with the whole fear thing or building some resistance to that. So place one palm, so the back of the hand is on the floor and the palm is facing up. And just hold there for a moment and then carefully release it and gently shake it. Place it back down and then repeat it on the other side. It could probably be a little bit more frontward for this one. Placing the other back of hand there. You can, again, control the amount of pressure and weight that comes into that. And then really slowly unpeel it and shake it out. And then turn that hand so the fingers turn in towards your knees. And see if you can turn the other hand so the fingers come in towards the knees. You can tuck the toes and then just slowly pull back and pulse a little bit back and forth. See what you've got. And then just slowly, carefully, from your belly, lift out of there, peel the palms off the floor, stretch nicely into the fingers, and then just release the hands and shake out those poor little wrists. And then we just come to sit back on our feet, bringing our hands into prayer at the heart center, taking a moment to look down and within, becoming conscious of, what's going on inside, how you're feeling, any changes. I mean, we're beginning to feel a little more positive here in Australia. It's a little niggly thing as the rest of the world is going in a backward direction. So that fear flutter might still be a little bit around, even if we feel pretty safe within ourselves. That collective fear can have quite an effect. Subtle, but subtle but strong enough. So we take an inhale as the arms come up through the center and we reach with trust, just looking directly forward. We open the arms out, coming down, go forward with enthusiasm. We inhale and drop the hips or thighs towards the floor, mini back bend. I open myself to possibilities. You pull back, you can even tuck the toes if you like. I bow to wisdom. We come into upcut, I breathe in energy. And you can do lion's breath here, poking the tongue out. I release my fears, down cat. And that's some phlegm is released. Inhale, I welcome change. And full child's pose, untuck the toes, hands beside the feet. I surrender to peace. Inhale and kneel upward. I feel joy and inspiration. Hands meet overhead. Sit back down, hands to heart, and I honor life. Take a moment to let those affirmations absorb in. The affirmation through this series is our vinyasa. That little linking in between thing. And then let's just inhale, reach all the way up, arms coming up and overhead. And as you exhale, bringing the hands back down onto the floor. So we're coming into cat, tuck the toes under. And then you can exhale and push back into downward facing dog. And you can just begin to slowly take that in, having a little pause for play and assessing. So play, as we know, with children and other young animals, is used as a tool, as a learning ground of, developing skills. So here in our asana, we want to also use our play as a way of learning and assessing and addressing. Any little movements that feel like it can help release any stuck energy for you. And then when you're done there, can you perhaps just push back and enjoy a moment in downward facing dog? You might like to keep the knees fairly bent for these first few moments, you know, first few times in downward dog. Press those hands away or press those hands into the floor. Find that nice even spread in all four corners of your palms. Pull back all the way into the hips. And at the same time, as you're pulling the hips back on that angle, begin to roll your sit bones up towards the sky and find this sense of grounding, this pulling down into the heels. And then from there, we're going to just walk our hands a little more forward so we can come into full plank. You might need to make that adjustment. And then we're going to do like what I'm going to call running plank. We're going to inhale, and as we exhale, we bring the right knee to the right elbow. Exhale, straighten. Inhale. Is it inhale? It's exhale the other way. It doesn't matter. Just inhale one way, exhale the other way, bringing a knee to the elbow and then straightening the leg, knee to the elbow, straightening the leg, and we do this sort of running plank. So it's a plank, not a dog. So the elbows, sorry, the shoulders are over the wrists. I'm not sure if I can't see everybody as clear as I would like to. Okay, yes, it can get a little hard on the wrists. So you can pull back into dog when you're ready. Actually, let's drop to our knees, and you can just drop buttocks down to the heels and roll out your wrists. So the elbows can drop to the floor, as can the forehead, and we'll just do a few rotations through the wrists. If you want, you could even just take a moment to massage the wrists. Give them a little bit of love. Take your time with them, and if anything doesn't feel right for you, then just come out if you're having any issues with the wrists. Please come out. Some of this could be done on the elbows if you wanted to, if you really have a wrist problem and you want to continue with us. So coming back into dog. Bringing those feet in towards each other so you're a little bit more in the midline of the feet, and then inhale, lift the left leg up. And then exhale, draw the nose and knee toward each other. We're not going to move forward with the shoulders. Just keep the shoulders exactly where they are. It's just a knee movement or a hip movement. Inhale, lift the leg. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, lift the leg. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, lift the leg. Hold there. Rotate your ankle a few times in each direction. And then we bend the knee. We open the hip and lifting the thigh. Take one breath there. And as we exhale, we're coiling in, we're pushing forward, and we're bringing that left foot beside the hands, in between the hands. And here you could have your blocks, and you could place a block under the hands if you like. Or you could just be on your fingertips or a gorilla fist. We're going to inhale and do this coiling action that we do. So lifting the back heel and hips a little as you drop the head down. And then exhale, push back with the hips, with the heel, and look up and forward. And then inhale, coil in, lifting the back hip, dropping the head. Exhale, push back, pull the hip away, the heel away, I'm meaning to say, and look up. Inhale once again with that back heel, drop the head, rounding through the spine. Exhale as you lengthen the whole of your body out. Place that hand, right hand, on a block or just the floor out a little bit from the alignment that it's in now. And then this back foot, we're just going to step in a tiny amount and drop onto the corner, razor edge of that foot. We've been working on this for the series here, so make the adjustments with your feet to make yourself comfortable here. We're lining our shoulder now over that wrist now that we're in alignment again, now that we're in this half sort of side plank pose. You can have your hand, left hand on left knee, and that might be you, and we're going to pulse back and forth. So lift the hips and drop them down, lift the hips and drop them down. If you have a serious wrist issue, you could stack your 2 blocks on top of each other and place your elbow here, and here you are. So if you've got a little bit more to go, you can lift the arm up, and you could do this sort of pulsing with the arm. Lift it. But it doesn't matter. Then we're going to grab our block and have it perhaps even on a high level, and we're going to push that left hand into the block and see if we can step that left leg just to sit the foot behind the right. So we're now coming into the side plank pose, and you can just lift your elbow. So the hand is still on the breast, and you're just lifting your elbow. And then we're going to come out of there because it's strong work. So turn around. So you're coming back into downward facing dog. Drop the knees to the floor, have them wide so you can sit back down, the big toes touching and buttocks to heels. Hallelujah. Take a rest, and you can rock from side to side a couple of times. And once again, lift those hands and have a little play with any form of rotation or wrist releasing that feels nice for you. You might even like to massage that right wrist. Don't be too, easy with it. Just be very mindful and more careful. So don't move too quickly. Don't just presume that it's, you can fling it too hard. And then when you're ready, we inhale and roll up. Draw your knees in towards each other. Turn the palms out and we reach with trust. Going forward with enthusiasm as the hands come out in front of you in a wisdom pose. We open ourselves to possibilities, coming into a little back bend of your choice. We bow to wisdom as we pull back, buttocks to heels. We breathe in energy as we come into up cat. We release our fears as we come into down cat. Tongue can come out. We welcome change back into up cat. And we surrender to peace in full child's pose, hands alongside the feet. We feel joy and inspiration as we rise all the way up, hands overhead. And we honor life as we sit back down in Virasana, the hands at the heart, taking a moment just to experience that. And then once again, through the center line, inhale, arms reach up, lift the hips off the feet. And as we exhale, coming down to place the hands onto the floor, back in cat, tucking the toes, and we find our way back into downward facing dog. And once again, play as a query, play as a way to comfort, play as a way of communication. And after a couple of wiggles, we bring our feet a little closer in towards each other into the center there, and then we use the inhalation to lift the right leg up into the air. And as we exhale, we draw the knee to the nose or into the torso, and then inhale, lift up. We're not swinging the whole body forward, just the leg is coming in and then lifting back up. So next time you lift, you can hold it there. Take a moment, rotate the ankle a few times in both directions. And then you can bend your knee and you can open the hip up. Just assessing what's going on, perhaps a little bit more in that grounded leg in the left hip. Take a breath in there, and as you exhale, begin to coil that leg through, coming forward with the shoulders and placing that right foot forward to the hands. You can have blocks underneath you here, and then we inhale with the pulse, lifting the heel and dropping the head. And as we exhale, extending and lengthening from heel to crown. Inhale, lifting the heel, dropping the head, rounding through the spine. And exhale, ironing ourselves out, heel to crown. Last one. Inhale, dropping and lifting. Dropping the head, lifting the heel. Exhale, lengthening, heel to crown. Okay, so here we're going to place that left hand out a little on an angle. Once again, if you need to stack 2 blocks and come onto your elbow, that's okay, or use a block to support you in any way, just this hand. And then we're going to turn out onto the razor edge of that left foot. We begin to bring the weights over shoulder to wrist, and you can either just have that right hand on the knee, or you can lift that right hand up into the air, and we start this pulsation, dropping the hip, lifting the hip, dropping the hip, lifting the hip, and just, enjoying that little pulsation. We're going to then grab a block, we place it, so our right hand can be pressing into it and supporting it. You lift the hip away as you press into that block, and then step that right foot forward, place it just behind the left foot, and see if you can begin to stack your shoulders and lift your right elbow. Hand can drip down towards the heart. Take a breath there, good work, it's very strong. And then slowly come back out of it, turning into downward facing dog. Hallelujah. And then you can drop down, knees come down, heels, buttocks to the heels, and just a moment to rest and release. You can release through the wrists. And then we slowly roll back up, and as we roll back up, we tuck the thighs into each other. Last vinyasa, turning the palms out, I reach with trust. I go forward with enthusiasm, hands coming forward. I open myself to possibilities, coming into a little back bend. I surrender to wisdom. I honor wisdom, I think. I breathe in energy as we come into up cat. I release my fears, probably with siddhasana breath, tongue poking out. I welcome change on the inhalation, up cat again. And I surrender to peace in complete child's pose. I feel joy and inspiration as we reach up, and I honor life as we sit down, placing the hand at the heart center. And once again, just using this as a moment to tune in, to notice, and to enjoy. The energy is shifting, right? You can feel the energy of the body shifting. It's expanding, it's clearer, it feels a little more fun, I don't know, a little lighter or enjoyable perhaps. And then we can release the hands, and once again, inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to the earth, tucking the toes and downward facing dog. Bring our knees to the floor. Bring our hands just behind the knee, just in front of the knees, sorry. And then pull the knees off. Drop back with the hips. And then inhale, drop the knees down, open the heart up, look up to the sky. And exhale, push back, knees lift, head drops. Inhale as the knees drop, head and chest lift. Little arc in the back. And then exhale, dropping back. And again, inhale as we drop the knees down, looking up, and then walk those hands back out, pushing back into our downward facing dog, and having that moment once again to assess and play, to learn and understand through playful movement. You can step forward, but I'm teaching a little bit of jumping here. So you can lift both those heels, bend the knees, and begin to spring a little back and forth through the torso with those knees sort of supporting you when they're nice and bent. And then take an inhale and use the exhalation to spring forward, taking the weight into the hands. That's folding completely here. You might like to just walk your feet so they're hip distance. And here we're going to place the hands underneath the feet so the palms are facing or touching the soles of the feet. Back of the hands are to the earth. And here we can do this half lift. Looking up, you don't go so far, you can have the knees as bent as you need to, and then you bend the elbows as you release the torso over the thighs. And you could half lift again, and as you lift, really press those feet into the hands as you straighten those elbows, and then soften the elbows as you release the torso. One more, half lift. Press the feet into the hands, straighten those elbows, and then you can use an exhalation when you're ready to bend the elbows and release over the thighs. Coming off your hands, you can roll up or come up a reverse swap with the flat back, so whichever suits you today. Pressing those feet into the floor, keep the knees a little bent here as we bring the arms overhead. Hands meet overhead, and as you exhale, straighten the legs and bring the hands down to the heart. Take a moment to get comfortable, to feel, to relax. You can release the hands. Any spontaneous movement here as well. To release in any way that feels nice for you. And then the hands come out on the inhalation. We're going to lift the heels off the floor as we bring the hands together, James Bond Mudra. So interlacing all by the index finger. As we take an exhalation, we're going to drop the left heel down and keep the right heel up as we lean over to the right side. And then we're going to inhale back into our stiletto shoes. And exhale, drop the right heel and keep the left heel up as we lean over to the left-hand side. And then inhale, stiletto. And as we exhale now, keep the stiletto if you can. You can drop the heels if you can't. We begin to bend the knees and come down into chair pose as we slice the air in front of us. And we're going to have the hands just drop to around about shoulder distance as we hold here in stiletto in chair. And then release the hands down Release the heels to the earth, straighten up, arms overhead. And as we exhale, we're slicing through the air in front of us, bending the knees, dropping the arms all the way down now, and then inhale, straighten the legs, arms overhead. Exhale, slice the air in front of you, bend the knees, coming into chair, but the arms journey all the way down. Inhale, straighten the legs, arms overhead. Exhale, into chair, slicing the air in front of you, keeping the legs where they are, arms continue the journey, and inhale the arms up, legs remain there. Take a breath here, or two. One more breath, perhaps looking up at the hands now, and then exhale, hands to the heart and then to the earth. You can begin to straighten the legs a little bit here, release the head, you can release the shoulders, you can release the neck, swinging the chin from side to side. Have your blocks. And then we're going to inhale and half lift. You might like to bring your blocks up onto their tippy toes as well. We're going to inhale and lift the left leg and see if we can bring that left leg in line with the hip. Begin to draw the lower navel in, suck in your lower ribs, get strong. Try and line your right hip over your right ankle, and then inhale, see if you can lift that right arm in line with your shoulder. Breathe. One more breath there. Take that right hand, place it on your right knee as you bend it, and then drop that back left leg to the earth. Inhale and lift up, taking the left hand with you, and then the right hand joins. Here you have two choices. You can keep that back heel lifted, or you can step the foot out and drop the heel down, so we're in warrior one pose. I hate warrior one pose. My feet are very, very uncomfortable here, but I think I'm going to work with it. So if you want to join me in that, otherwise just keep the heel high. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, slice through the air in front of you. Legs are remaining exactly where they are, and then inhale, right up through the center. Exhale, slice through the air in front of you. Keep steady dressing, steady gaze. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, slicing through. Inhale, rise up, holding here. As you take an exhale, you can lean to the right, or you could even bend the elbows and take full interlace with the hands and be here with this sort of dripping aspect, or you could keep the mudra with the arms straight if you preferred. Then we inhale back to the center, bring the hands back into your mudra. We're going to lift that back heel off the floor now, so hips are really aligning over the front leg, and then we exhale and see if we can twist. Bringing this left elbow to the right knee or thigh. If not, you could always place your hand down and do this twist that we normally do. Otherwise, hands can be in prayer on the other side of your right leg. Breathe in here. It's going to get tricky here. So take your time, coming out, placing that left hand out on its angle, so it's not directly under, out on its angle. You're going to drop into it. You're going to drop that back foot to the floor, so the outer edge is there. Make sure you have plenty of support so you can lift that hip away, and see if you can now lift this right leg and place it on top of your left foot. Otherwise, you place it, don't know how to show you, right under behind that foot as we did before, Otherwise, you can place it on top, and maybe the elbow lifts or maybe the full arm lifts here now. Take a breath there, and then you can use the exhalation to come out into plank. Drop the knees to the floor, buttocks to heels, and a little wag, a little rock, a little sway. If you need to release your elbows, sorry, your wrists, then please do that. And then hands come back in place so they're shoulder distance. Palms are pressing into the floor, all four corners. And inhale to rise back into cat, tuck the toes under, press back into downward facing dog. Make your adjustments, make yourself comfortable. Maybe we're getting warm enough now, you don't need to wriggle around quite so much, and you can come into the stillness of downward facing dog. This is a pose for energy. You know, it's an inversion really. And so it's considered a pose of rest. So see if you can find that element of resting into this pose here. We then lift the heels, going to bend the knees. We begin to find this shifting of weight back and forth, this little element of bounce. Take an inhale, use the exhalation to jump forward. Half lift as you arrive. You can slip the hands in under the feet once again and continue with your half lift. And then use an exhalation to bend the elbows and come into the full fold. Then half lift, come off your hands. Exhale just to release and coming up your way, either rolling up like a rag doll or reverse swan with a flat back. Inhale. Hands meet overhead and exhale as the hands come down to the heart. And if you like, to the sides of your body so you can just feel how you feel. Any little adjustment through the neck or shoulders. Get comfortable in your body. And then inhale, hands turn out, hands line overhead. Interlace into our James Bond mudra. Suck in your lower belly, begin to bend the knees, lift your heels off the floor as you come into our chair pose, our stiletto chair pose. Whoop. Take one more steady breath, keep the gaze really firm. And then exhale to drop the heels down and take your hands down to the earth. You can have your blocks here. Once again, we use the inhalation to half lift and use your blocks on their highest point so you can be in line, almost shoulders with your hips. And then we take an inhale as we lift that right leg up. Try and have the leg so it's aligned with the hip. You're going to really need to start sucking in that lower belly and rounding a little through the back body. It feels like rounding, so you can really suck that core energy up into the body so you don't lose it, bleed it out. And then see if you can lift that left arm in line with the shoulder. We're getting so strong here. Warrior goddess style. Begin to bend that left knee, take the left hand so it places on the left knee and drop that right foot down. You can drop it so the back heel comes out. That means you need to step it out a little more to the right. Inhale, lift the left arm, right arm up and let the left arm fall. Make any adjustments you need to as you begin to arrive here in Virasana 1. Hands Eka, Virasana Eka. So bring your hands into James Bond Mudra, and as you exhale, settle into the pose, slicing down through the air in front of you with a very focused drishti. Inhale, arms up and over. Don't lose your drishti. It's not following the arms, it's staying steady. And exhale as you slice through the center. And inhale, rising. And exhale, slicing. Inhale, rising. This time into the side thing. We can exhale and just dip to the side, or you can fully interlace your fingers and drop that left elbow down towards the floor. Right elbow sits behind the head. And we open up that right gate of the body. And then we inhale back up to the center, back into your mudra, lift that back heel, and we exhale. We try and bring our right elbow to our left knee, or just the right hand to the ground beside the left foot, if this is impossible. You can turn it into prayer here. Keep kicking out to the heel of that right leg and lengthen out through your crown. Be really firm and strong through that back thigh, and begin to see if you can drop this front hip a little bit more as you bring that knee, left knee a little forward, pull back into that right heel. And we're pressing that right arm and left knee into each other, particularly right arm into the knee to try and gain a little bit more through the twist. Okay, releasing out of there, right hand comes out of alignment. So you can step this left foot out a little bit. We're going to step that right foot in a little bit, drop it down to the side. You could, of course, use your block as we did before. I should have mentioned that. Otherwise, we're going to see if we can lift the hip, lift from the belly, and see if you can lift that left foot and place it on top of the right foot. Lift the elbow to start with. See how you go. If you can lift the palm all the way up towards the ceiling. Keep lifting the hips away from the floor. Breathing steady here. Take one more breath. I know it's strong. And then exhale, slowly bringing that left hand down, coming into plank, and then dropping the knees down, having them wide, so you can begin to drop the buttocks down towards the heel. Having a careful smooch, a mindful smooch, and you can begin to really lay the whole body down, or the head down, and really rest into the earth, into the floor. You might like to then lift the hands and begin a little hand rotation. And maybe a little Egyptian style with the palms of the hands. If you need to massage, you can massage, or you can just widen the elbows, let the hands sit on the earth, and take a few deep breaths here. Ujjayi breath would best suit the occasion. And after a few really nourishing deep breaths, We can slowly begin to find our way out of there, bringing our hands just in front of our knees. I haven't really done such a great job at choosing the postures we're working towards because my original choice was Bakasana, the crow pose, and Vashishasana just came out of there, the side plank pose. So it's just come out of the series. I didn't really intend it to be that way. So it means that we're working on 2 wrist postures, which is maybe a little much for those of you who don't have strong wrists. So it is my apology. We're not necessarily aiming to have to do the postures. We're just working towards them and working in a way that makes it perhaps available to you. So if it's too much for your wrist, please, make a variation of it that works for you, and that the end result of the posture isn't important. It's just where we're sort of working with what we're working with. We're going to tuck the toes under. No, we're not. We're going to be here. Bring the knees in. I forgot what I was doing. Bring the knees in so that they're close together. Hands are just on either side of the knees. And we're going to take an inhale and then use the exhalation to lift the knees off the floor. Place the weight over those arms and make that nice rounding shell-like thing with the back. And then inhale to drop the knees back down. And then exhale to lift the knees off the floor. And then inhale to drop them back down. And then exhale to lift them back up. Inhale, drop them back down. And exhale, lift them back up. And then, hallelujah, drop them back down. Give your thighs a little bit of a roll. And let's not make a fuss of it. We'll just swing the legs around to the side and then out in front of us. Straighten your legs out. Removes perhaps some of the flesh, and then just shake your ankles. Rotating through the ankles a few times in both directions. And even a little bit of shoulder sway here, just loosening out through there. Okay, so coming forward with the buttocks, we're going to just take our hands around the knees, and you can just really slowly begin to coil down. Try and see where there may be some lack of strength to have the control. And lay your head down, hugging the knees in. Let's make it a little bit enjoyable for a moment. Making little circles with the knees, assessing your sacrum, your lower back. Change the direction once you've done a couple of rounds there. And then just allow the knees to fall wide to either side. And once again, we can have this little rocking. Seeing what's going on in the inner groin. And then back, we come drawing those knees, thighs in together, placing the feet back onto the floor. So they're sitting just behind the sit bones, behind the hips. And then we're going to place the arms alongside the ground, hands are just beside the hips. Make yourself comfortable. Press the feet into the floor. We begin to lift the hips and peel the spine slowly off. And it is the feet pressing into the floor that creates the magic here. And then use an exhalation to roll back down as if you can step your vertebra one at a time down back onto the floor, making the sacrum the last thing to hit back down. And then we begin to press the feet into the floor, lift the hips, feel the spine. And then once the spine starts lifting, you really want to reactivate that pressing of the feet, pressing of the feet, pressing of the feet. It's going to open up through to the chest. And then slowly you can let, almost like a feeling of shrugging the shoulders without actually shrugging them, to allow that spinal roll back down, vertebra by vertebra, to the floor. Sacrum hits last, making any little adjustments you need to as you go. And then again, inhale. Press the feet and lift the hips. Peel the spine. Don't be afraid to move super slowly so you can really assess and feel, hello, Sika. And then keep pressing those feet into the floor and begin to really lift those hips so they're almost in line with the knees. And hold there for a moment. You could walk your shoulder blades in towards each other and then really begin to press the line of the arms and the palms of the hands down into the floor, now supporting the feet that are continuing their work. Try not to allow the knees to fall out too much here. Feel as though your inner thighs are magnetized towards each other and that they stay in line with the knees and hips. Breathing here, because your feet are at hip distance, right? Take one more breath, but as you do, see if you can, squeeze a little more out of your back bend without it pinching anywhere. And then release those shoulders, almost this feeling of shrugging the shoulders up, and then making room for that upper back, the upper spine to begin to round down. And then you'll feel it through the ribs, and then down through the lower back, and then down into the sacrum. You can walk your feet just a little bit away from each other and down towards the top of your mat. Not too far, but just enough to give a little bit more room through the legs and thighs. Maybe your feet are as wide as your mat. And then we open up the arms and just drop the knees down to the left-hand side. Look over to the right. Take a breath or two here. Use your inhalation to find your way back up to the center with knees in the head. And the exhalation as we drop down to the opposite sides for both. Take a couple of breaths. And then once again, it's an inhale back to the center. Bring your hands back alongside the body with the palms facing down. Bring your feet back in towards the hips. Now we're going to do a little bit of core work. So we did this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We're going to lift the hips, and as we do, we're going to lift the feet up and over. The hands can press into the floor to get the lift of the hips and spine off the floor. And then as you exhale, I want you to come up into like a relaxed boat pose. And then we inhale, lift the legs up and over the head, and then we exhale, lift the whole body up into our V-shaped boat pose. And then inhale, lift, exhale, lift again. Inhale, lift the legs over your head. Exhale, boat pose. Inhale, lift, exhale, boat pose. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Little meditation, a swinging meditation. Just find your groove, enjoy the moment, see what you've got. Keep going, a couple more. It's not strong core work, so we need to do it for a while. This is how we build strength. Okay, one more roll. Up, and then one more roll into your boat pose. See if you can hold there for a moment. One more breath there. And then as you exhale, just release the feet to the floor. Open up your knees, Babu Konasana. Hands can hang on to the ankles. Take a deep breath in. Sigh the breath out through the mouth. And again. Just let go of any over-efforting now. You might like to just play through the neck and the shoulders. Just trying to release any tension, tightness or discomfort that you find through the neck, the shoulders. See if you can let go of your thinking mind, trying to redirect any thinking back into the body awareness. And see if you can allow simply this natural bubbling up of movement. Take one more breath there, and then you might like to use an exhalation to come a little forward. You might also need to push your feet out a little bit more away from you in order to comfortably drop forward. I'm going to keep my elbows tucked in, and I'm leading as much as I can through the chest, and then I'll just tuck my chin in once I've arrived. But if that's not enough support for you, you can place your hands out in front of you and have that support. Just be careful of this sucking in at the chest and the rounding of the back. We really want to try and keep that open-hearted aspect here. So if you have the hands out in front of you, perhaps have your elbows bent and pulling back in towards the shins as a way of keeping that openness in the chest. Ujjayi breath would be nice. I should have said that a little earlier. And then use an inhalation to come up if you're down. It's gently drawing the knees in towards each other again. And once again, rolling slowly back down. You can bring the knees with you and have a little play once again, just releasing any tension through the back that may have accumulated. What we've done hasn't necessarily been back aggravating, but there may be some sensitivity. So you have a couple of choices here for the last couple of moments. You could We've just done the open leg stance, but you could have a couple of things underneath your thighs to support you as you hold in Supta Konasana as opposed to rest. Or you could go on a bolster, place a bolster underneath you and have the legs up against the air, or you could just place your legs up in the air and just have a moment here. But if you have a bolster and you want to do that, I would recommend wear the bolster. Or if you are comfortable with shoulder stand and fancy doing shoulder stand, that's what we're going to come into. So if you're joining me, place your hands alongside the body, so the hands sit on either side of your hips. Begin to lift the feet off the floor, and we've already sort of activated into this, lifting the legs up and over the body. So take the legs up and over, begin to press those hands into the floor, arms into the floor, walk your shoulder blades in a little bit, and you can catch your hips from there. Just for a moment, you might like to bend the knees and try and walk your elbows, your shoulders, but maybe your elbows in towards each other a little bit more, just without the legs being completely 100% over. If we can, we're trying to line the hips as best we can over the shoulders. That doesn't matter if it doesn't happen. Even if you have a bit of a V shape, that's also okay. We can work towards things. And then walking those hands up the back as best as you can as you extend. You might even like to extend one leg first, see how you go, and then change it out for the other leg to see how you go. And then both legs. There's a lot more pressure that comes into the head, neck, chest, throat once we have both legs up. Keep lifting, lifting, lifting through the torso as you're lifting up now into your tail. You're trying to bring your sit bones forward and you're reaching up into your heels and then the balls of your feet. If you can, have the balls of your big toes and your big toes pressing a little bit into each other, though the heels are about an inch or so apart. If you like, you can bring your soles of your feet together. So we're in Baddha Konasana, upside down. You can really try and press the feet into each other. And if you like, you can let the feet go and extend just the left leg while keeping the right heel or foot in the center. And then draw that left leg back into the center so the feet are back in the middle together, and then extend the right leg out. And notice the little adjustment you have to do into the left side as that right leg extends out to keep in the center. And then draw the foot back into the center. Extend both feet back up and over the head. And then slowly begin to bring the feet over your head to the floor behind you. If you can actually bring the feet there, we can do halasana for a moment. You would release the grip of the body and maybe interlace your hands behind you. But maybe you can't quite manage that, that's okay. But just let go a little bit through the hands. Then when you're ready, you place the hands back on the floor and we make that little shrugging of the shoulder gesture as we release the spine slowly back and along the floor. If you can, in slow motion, bringing the vertebra back one at a time, and then the knees bend. Place the feet on the floor, lift your buttocks off, place the hands under the buttocks with our T-square or a little half square action with the thumbs almost touching each other under your bum, and then tuck the elbows in firmly into the body. Straighten the legs along the floor, press the elbows into the floor, pop your chest open and drop your head back. Matsyasana, fish pose. Keep pressing the elbows into the floor, expand from collarbone to collarbone and completely release the head, if the neck allows you to. And then slowly release back down, like shrugging those shoulders once again. Come off your hands and we lay ourselves into Shavasana. If you have anything that is a must do before you come here, you can. I'm just going to roll my head a couple of times from side to side, and then I'm going to allow the magic of that last pose to flow through and integrate into the body. Find your breath. Cleanse the body with the inhalation, breathing it in deeply into and throughout the body, as if you can breathe all the way down into your fingers and toes. Exhale out through the mouth, a long washing breath. Clearing out any stagnation, any difficulty, any aggravation. You might like to repeat that breath work again. Releasing and relaxing a little more further, a little more deeply. And if you need a third round of the breath, please take it. And then just begin to really settle in. Bring your awareness to the features of your face. Release any tension that you find there through the eyes, jaw, nose, cheeks, lips, tongue, eyeballs. And even if you can release deep through the eardrum, beginning to relax all your senses, your sense organs. In the skin, you can find a sense of softening. And just keep that idea of relaxing all your sense organs. It's the eyes, the inner nose, the inner ears, your tongue, and the skin that wraps around your entire body. Once our sense organs are relaxed, this can give us a profound sense of ease, of security. We're not on alert. We're just actually being and relaxing into our beingness. Everything is okay. It may not seem it, but everything is in perfect order. See if you can imagine you can let go of all your worries and fears in 3 simple, natural rounds of breath. Is there any little message your wisdom body, your soul, your being has for you this morning? Just ask and wait. Sometimes the message is non-verbal. And sometimes the message is delayed. So don't worry if you haven't received immediately Feel into your body and notice any changes. And notice what happens today. Beginning to gently find your way out. Really carefully. So we've worked hard in this morning's class and we've gone deep. So you don't want to jolt yourself out. Just come to roll onto a comfortable, uninjured side as you're ready. And we press up with our opposite hands as we come to sit again. Bringing our hands together, perhaps a little bit of rubbing you might like. And grounding down through touch, placing the hands over the eyes, over the face. Just a little mini massage. A moment of self-care, of self-love and respect. And then bringing the hands back together at the heart center. And we come to say our prayer. So finding your breath. Om Swasti Prajabhya Palipalayantam Nyayena Magena Mahim Mahesha Go Brahma Mebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May there be happiness for all people. May our rulers righteously rule the earth. May there be welfare for all sacred animals and people of wisdom. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste to you all. Have a wonderful day and rest of week.